SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeeps.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity.
What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however, and especially in Antarctica, you are listening.
Did we get one?
No, we didn't yet.
No. Darn.
This is the I
I
Speak
was all
Jeep
excited for 2
podcast.
seconds.
I know, but I'd like somebody to be in Antarctica listening. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps Incorporated. And I'm joined in Grandmother's Couch studio. Oh my gosh.
Why don't we have a sign that says that yet?
Grandma Couch studio. I am off to a bang.
I don't know, but we do have a lot of listeners that actually go, "Hey, is that the actual Grandma's Couch Studio?" And we show them the studio.
I know,
So
that is the best
We
thing.
do need a sign that says Grandma's Couch Studio
Yeah.
just to hang right out.
I like some stickers. Maybe that should be our next sticker. We haven't produced
Right?
a podcast sticker in a hot
A
minute.
picture of the couch,
Just a-
Grandma's Couch Studio.
You know what? There's another movie video series that's real famous for couches too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so over on your left there is the mad scientist Scott Brown.
Uh-huh. And
And-
over there is the producer Jeff Tremonte
The
and
Italian stallion.
winch extraordinaire.
That was a lot of fun.
I
We'll
cannot
talk
wait
about
to
that.
hear about.
Yeah, you're
your
out.
guys'.
You have to tune in to the end because there's a lot. We almost need like a 3-part series. There's so much crap to talk
You
about.
need to stay tuned for the ending. Now,
Yeah.
and if you did not, if you're not conscious of the restructure of the format of your listening experience, we tried to take some base feedback and some internal communication and move our personal weekend update information, which is sometimes the shenanigans that a lot of people are invested in, and we put that at the end, kind of in an outro-esque experience where we can
It's
have
like a
just
cutscene almost.
yeah, like a cutscene, right? Fourth wall break, and we can just kind of comfortably communicate with each other, and that will be something that we carry on. We've heard fantastic feedback from our listening audience and any of our viewers and people who have come in that they like that we're getting right into the meat and potatoes. And so if you don't want to sit around for the personal shenanigans, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can kind of hang around towards the end, and we just kind of BS about, kind of what uniquely makes us us. And with that said, today we're going to be talking about looking forward to 2025. Now, as Jeffrey regurgitated to me this morning, we're not big resolution people.
Right.
We've talked resolutions before. I get that. I don't know if it's a generational piece, if it's a social time period. Resolutions was a big thing at one point.
It was.
My problem with resolutions is people talk about, I'm going to go do this, and then they don't do it. We're get off your duff and do it kind of people.
That's exactly right. You know what I mean? And so if you are, I like honoring the concept of resolutions. I love some of the folklore behind it and, kind of that idea. But realistically, talk is cheap. So, that's how I feel. Unless you're going to live it. So we're not going to necessarily talk about resolutions, but as we close out the end of 2024 and we kind of, prepare to usher in and welcome 2025, we're going to be talking about what are some things that you can look forward to in the auto industry from Jeep Mama herself, Stellantis, the mothership, from SFJ 4x4, both kind of on the physical, here and elsewhere, and then the podcast, what can you look forward to, and then, or our media outreach, and then as our individuals, as our persons.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair?
I think that's fair, and I think we also need to jump to comments because we do have a lot coming in this morning. So Michael
Outstanding.
Lentz saying good morning, guys. He was first.
Mike got first. Good morning.
Joe O'Brien says good morning. Scott
morning.
Lindquist says still hear the goat. Good morning.
Good morning.
That goat's probably just going to stay forever at this point. Leslie Ann says good morning, guys. Roy Hill says good morning. Hope you and your families had a good Christmas.
Thank you, Roy. You
And
as well.
Giaga Jeeper says good morning, SFJ.
Good morning to everybody. Just kind of get it out of the ways. I think that we had, we all celebrate Christmas here, among other holidays, but we all had an amazing experience. We were talking about that. I know factually I was go from Pittsburgh to Cleveland to, all the little towns in between per se.
You running the Simpson line, right?
Dude, running the Simpson line. I mean, just barely shut the vehicles off and had a great time visiting family and friends over our kind of hiatus of the last week.
And speaking of family and friends, what you don't know is that one of our fans, customers, listeners, Diana, stopped in on Saturday right before we took a holiday break.
Right.
And she brought us cookies, first of all.
She actually reached out to me and goes, "Hey, did the guys give you cookies?" I said, "What cookies?"
Well, you were out of town, and we're like, we're not going to let these go to waste. So
That's what she was like. Did they not save you any cookies? I was like, oh, maybe they threw them in the freezer for me.
no. we absolutely ate
All right,
them.
Diana, there's your answer.
They were delicious. They were Jeep shaped.
She sent me a picture. That
No,
was so cute.
they were awesome. But she also gave us this light up Grinch ornament. I don't know if you can really see it on camera or not, but we'll try to hold it out.
Oh, fantastic. Look how fun that
There's
is.
different colors.
Oh, my gosh. That is so cool. That is creative.
She slid that across the counter to us, and I was like, Neil's never going to see this one. This one's just going home with me.
That is awesome. And it's a little Jeep. It's a Grinch driving a Jeep, and it's flashing all the fun colors.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I could play with this all day.
Yep.
All
so
right.
it has to make it to our Christmas tree.
It does, absolutely. And you know what's funny is a lot of our customers have brought us ornaments over the years, and they do make it onto the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I'm a big personalized ornament guy. I've had the opportunity to sit in a lot of households over the last week and kind of celebrate Christmas. And it's amazing how many people do like thematic trees, and they kind of reasonably change out their ornaments, but they have one or two little kind of purposeful Christmas ornaments. Man, my whole tree is just all like a mishmash of nostalgic. I don't know, nostalgic or sentimental ornaments.
That's
Each and
how it
every
should
one.
be.
That's what I feel like. You know what I
Agreed.
mean? But you know what? To each their own. If you like your thematic tree, or maybe you have multiple trees, you can do a little bit of both.
And good morning to Eric Elliott as well.
Outstanding. And I do want to take a moment. If this is one of your first times joining us, thank you so much for choosing to to click on I Speak Jeep podcast and kind of hear about all things Jeep and automotive. Additionally, make sure you take a moment and kind of leave a 5-star rating and a review. And if you have the means, share either this live feed or the audio with a friend, family, or your local Jeep group. We greatly appreciate that. It helps our viewership. You can always join us live on the Book of Faces or YouTube at 10:19 a.m. on nearly most Mondays, unless we kind of share with you otherwise.
Well, and Diana's actually in here saying Happy New Year's Eve.
Eve.
And for our listeners that are not watching us live, this is going to drop on New Year's Day.
Yes.
So you'll be listening to us on New Year's Day or after.
Yes. So happy New Year's Day to you, our listeners.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our viewers.
in the future.
For our viewers, Happy New Year's Eve.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Ghosts of SFJ Pass.
It's fair. It's fair. How much did you love that montage that Davey put together with the 12 days of Christmas?
He's just getting better and better.
Yeah, except for Jeffrey's not allowed to use AI to create next
Anymore.
year's. Not
He's
anymore.
banned.
No, he's banned from AI.
Listen.
12 days of Christmas.
The first 2 years that we did the 12 days of
You did
Christmas.
great.
No, you complained the first 2 years about how terrible they were.
He complains just because he doesn't want to sing.
And then I was like,
Fair.
you know what? Let's just do AI, because if it's going to suck either way.
Yeah,
No.
but if it sucks, I can at least blame you versus.
This is the point. I took the blame away from me this time. I let the computer
Jeff just
get
had a
blamed.
new toy and he wanted to play with it. That's what it was.
That
It's
is.
fair.
Yep.
But he's not allowed to use the toy anymore.
So, again, if you're choosing to listen to us as a streaming, entertainment or a download, we thank you for prioritizing this, and we hope that it is informative and entertaining in the process.
And if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, follow along, and
Do those
make
good
sure
things.
that you give us a good review.
Yep. Also, Patreon. Just throw it out there.
Ah.
Also, Patreon.
And since we're going to talk about what to look for in 2025, I think we need to talk about Patreon in 2025 as well.
So I am going to noodle something out into the universe, and I'm going to have our I'm going to flush this out as if you are sitting around the round table of conversation that oftentimes happens at SFJ 4x4, where we start to kind of snowball. And so maybe this is the things to look forward to in the future. Is something was presented to me over the course of the last week and said, so we have this Patreon and you have this media approach to kind of transparently communicating the physical pursuits of SFJ 4x4, right? Of working on vehicles, of going out to shows, of meeting with cool Jeepers and off-roaders and doing this kind of stuff. But then we do general service, so oil changes and tire rotations and mountain balances and lift kit installs and blah, 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 blah. And I said, what if you had a membership service where if I was a member of a particular subscription service for SFJ 4x4, that maybe I would have access to the highest level of Patreon, that maybe I would have basically a bank account of sorts or a point account that would accrue for a crawl over, for a couple oil changes a year, for a couple tire rotations a year.
Maybe a special member shirt.
A special member shirt, a special members gathering, in the evening sometime, more of a...
Or a wheeling day, maybe.
So this is, with Patreon, very easy to do. We just make it the top tier.
And that was a really interesting thing that was suggested to me.
I like it.
To say, what if you had kind of a members experience for people who wanted... say you're going to get 2 oil changes, because we do a number of people's oil changes because we do specialty oils. We have a multi-point oil change inspection sheet. Oil change and tire rotation can easily run you $120, $150, depending on, hey, did we do a cabin air filter? Did we do, windshield wipers? Did we...
Is it a 5-tire rotation on a Gladiator?
Correct. Right. All of those things. And so what if you had been paying into a membership that, after 3 months, all of a sudden you come in for this service and it's just, you just kind of cash out and you give you a thank you card and, you're not paying anything at that time because it's kind of built into your, kind of your policy there,
That's
your
fun.
membership piece. And I thought that is a fascinating approach.
Jeff needs to make a card.
Wow.
I like making work for Jeff.
You said it, but it was already in my head going, this just meant more work for me. I knew exactly where this was going.
I just want you to know
I
our
just didn't
ornament
want
is
it to
still
be said out
blinking.
loud.
It is.
I love it. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. And I thought, man, I wonder. So years ago, I don't know if you recall, Scott, but I had, and this is long before Jeffrey, I had wanted to create a similar plan. It was more like an insurance policy, is what I was calling it at that time.
Yep.
And it was interesting when an outside party had made the suggestion to me, seeing kind of what and how we're doing things. And I thought, that might be an interesting...
It's like the good idea
experience.
before, but better.
Yes.
I like it.
And now we have a means to do it with, with an appropriate kind of a software and recurring pursuit there.
With that, what that means is that in 2025, we're going to be revamping Patreon.
Correct.
And changing up our tiers.
Correct.
And our top tier will have some added benefits and added bonuses, especially available to those that would want to use that service.
Oh, we're talking a massive value added experience, right? Because we have the capacity to do that. I was, again...
Maybe even members jackets.
Members jackets.
Why?
I'm not gonna lie. I think that's
It's something from back in the day when you had your
it's
group
from.
with your cars. You'd have a members jacket. And you all stand look cool with your jacket.
I don't know. I actually love that. It appeals to my raised white letter nostalgia.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
The top tier Patreon may be expensive if we're going to be doing all of that.
I actually
or maybe they're
I was
just able to get an exclusive merch.
I was exposed to
They can
business.
purchase it but you have to be that to be
Correct.
able to purchase
You have to
it.
show your card to get the member's jacket.
See, this is we're just noodling with our listening viewing audience right now, and these are if you have some
morning,
thoughts
Bill.
on that. If you have some thoughts on that, we'd love to know.
Yes.
Feel free to text us.
Tell us what you want
email.
in our Patreon.
Slide into Jeff's
what
DMs.
will
Slide into Jeff's DMs. Hey, buddy.
and
And I'm telling
our,
you,
Nick,
and
our nighttime episode, after hours episode, is going to be on Patreon in 2025.
Correct.
And some of those comments may be revealed.
and absolutely, and that was one of the things that because it is so wholly important to me, and one of the things that people recognize, SFJ 4x4 obviously stands for Simpson Family Jeeps, and hence the kind of the correlation of why I say both. So many people, have associated the family values, that center word, which is true. I mean, I'm very close to my family and have, by extension, we have created family here, not just within employment and the family tree, but also with customers and our ability to appropriately connect through this vessel that is the Jeep life, right?
Absolutely.
And
Both the good and the bad.
100%, right, 100%.
We'll call you out. All kinds of good stuff.
And so, so it's kind of important to maintain a core family values. Your kids are sitting, kind of, they're outside the studio right now,
Yeah.
but they're here,
Yeah.
and we want to conduct ourselves in a manner which, kind of honors that family value structure. At the same time, Nickelodeon is a funny thing, and
It
if
is.
that reference comes from kind of,
Don't give it away. They have to tune in for the other episode.
well, you'd have to come in for that other episode, but it's a more adult-oriented infotainment is
Yeah.
really what it comes down to.
we overshare is what it is.
Yeah, and I think
That's an understatement.
and I think that there is opportunity for some humor, some lightheartedness, some authenticity to present itself in a way that, again, in 2025, can create some buy-in between our relationship from our perspective to yours. So I look forward to kind of creating that after hours, session and providing that for our members or Patreons going forward. So, and talking about the membership rate, this other business that was doing it, their membership, now they too have regular expensive services that they provide, but is $99 a month is their membership rate.
Oh,
So it was interesting kind of talking to them and understanding what their members get for the rates that they're being charged.
that's interesting.
Yes. Yes. But if it's a value added opportunity where you're getting depreciated cost on things, you're getting multiple services.
When maybe we do, like, if you're doing a full build, like a full restoration, a full fit out of your Jeep, drop off a new Jeep, we turn it into something else. Maybe get like a month free with the build or something to get them kind of to tip their toes in the sand.
Of the membership piece.
Yeah. Like if you bring in a Jeep, have us restore it,
Right.
do a big investment in us, we'll do a little investment in you.
I think we
Makes sense.
set a dollar amount. If you spend X dollar,
Yeah.
then you get a
Correct.
free month of that.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
I like that.
That's an interesting idea. What definitely something within reason we can confidently say that we're revamping our Patreon experience to conduct ourselves in a way that really gives our patrons benefit, just
Yeah.
sincerely. So we're going to be shifting some of our focus over to that and appreciating what they've brought to the table over the years of supporting specifically this podcast and the business as a whole.
Yeah, maybe the patrons that have been active since we started that, maybe they get a free month of the
Get
new
a taste
program.
of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So part of that, since we're already talking about the podcast, what should our listeners expect from the podcast itself in 25?
Yeah. So specifically, you and I sat down and we mapped out 3 production, produced years.
Yeah.
Right. Now we had, if you've been following along well enough, you know that Scott and I actually had a rendering of this podcast prior to that. That's not included in these metrics,
Right.
right? But we recognize that because of the 6-week hiatus, because of the time frame spent on building the studio specifically, our volume of shows produced was the least it has been in 3 years.
Yep.
But our downloads and kind of the numbers themselves actually were on point for continued growth,
Yes.
and were some of the best listening
Yeah.
that we've had. So understanding and appreciating that our listeners want more episodes. And so one of the things that we can, within confidence, share with folks is to say that our Monday lives may be in that 40 to 45 range, but our target is going to be having supplementary 20, 30-minute sessions that will be
Bonus
exclusively
episodes.
available on our downloads.
Yep.
Or on the streaming platforms.
Yes.
So bonus episodes. So we're going to continue that between 40 and 45 is a very attainable target for lives.
Well, and for our live audience, if they don't go and download, they should know that there was a bonus episode released on Christmas Day
Correct.
that was only on the streaming platforms.
Correct. And so, so it's of value to start to communicate to people to say, we're going to be trying to give you more. And that was the whole kind of those folks who have come in and have seen the studio. First of all, everybody's really impressed. And again, that's a testament to you, our viewers and listeners, right? Like, we're kind of playing the cards we're dealt. We did not kind of go into this necessarily to be media moguls of any sort. We're just out here grinding, literally grinding on metal.
Yeah.
And then communicating to you what we're doing. And you're like, hey, we want more, right? And so the podcast studio itself allows us to shoot more YouTube videos, to create more audio experience, content.
Especially during business hours.
And it's especially during business hours, right? And that was a piece that we struggle with. People already love the audio experience. They're like, man, the mic sound good, the clarity is appropriate, blah, blah, blah. But you could hear the compressor running in the background. Greg loves the air hammer, the air chisel. It is his favorite tool in the whole world. And it goes all the time, right? And
Constantly.
and as the studio, we don't hear that as much. It's totally muffled or depreciated. The guys will oftentimes have to like stop working with a grinder or a flap disc or drilling because we're trying to shoot some audio or shoot a video. Now we don't have to do that, right? And you just yourself, Jeffrey, you've been able to conduct a number of what I like to call special interest stories.
Yeah.
Since the studio has been created in specifically Q4, end of 3 and 4 of 2024, we're able to do a number of special interest stories.
I know we have at least one that hasn't been released yet, so that'll be coming out in 25.
Correct.
I think it's just the one, but there might be another one that we
There
didn't
might be
release.
another one that hasn't been released either. And so the idea is that we can... Interviews are hard, and that's one of the things that we really would love to do is interview more people. But Monday mornings are challenging when it comes to getting guests on air, right? And that will continue to be a goal of ours because we kind of fell short in 2024 of getting a lot of in-person guests. And we did some Zooms, we did some, some FaceTimey stuff, but we really didn't get the guest presence that we would like. And the biggest feedback we're hearing from people is it's really hard for them to get here in the AM on Mondays.
So maybe we need to reward the people that make it a point to get here on Mondays and be live with something we'll noodle on later.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But even so, being able to do the interviews throughout the week, any time of day during business hours,
It's definitely a big help.
So if we got a guest that we really want on and they're only available Thursdays at 3 p.m., we can schedule that appropriately, and we
Yeah.
can still do that while the shop is still operating. We're not shutting
Yes.
down business to do this.
100%. And that's something that we are committed to bringing to the table in 2025. Obviously, so we have a volume reach. I'm going to continue to put my goal out there of a listener in Antarctica.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That would put us in 7 continents.
Maybe get a reward if you're thinking you got some extra travel miles.
Scott is in the mood to give away everything today. So Amanda says, "Good morning, guys. Hope you have a good New Year." And Space City Overland says, "Morning."
Good morning to all of you. Scott's giving away the house right now. I mean, he's feeling very generous. He
every
was like,
baby.
he's still in Christmas mode.
Literally every single idea. And maybe we'll reward that. Another idea. Oh, we should reward that too.
Well, I'm just excited because we're able to do so much stuff in house that we didn't used to do.
That is
All
true.
I know is that if we're going to give away this much stuff, our membership fees might go up a little bit extra to
That
cover
or
this.
Scott's paycheck's going to go down.
Right?
If you would like Scott
Holy
to pay
cow.
for your membership,
I think you would get
Text
excited
now.
if we legit had somebody purposely go to Antarctica just to listen to us.
oh my goodness.
That would be pretty awesome.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
There's some qualifiers here.
There's a qualifier. There's a qualifier.
Oh boy.
So I think that I'm really committed to that volume of audio that I believe is necessary to satisfy our listening base, right? Because as much as we enjoy the lives and we love having people jump into the comments and log on and you know jump in and jump out and so on and so forth, the scope of where people are joining us is actually downloads or streams.
I would agree. And so as we move into 2025 with the podcast content too, we're going to be continuing our Art of series the first Monday of every month.
Yep.
So, and that's based on the record date. So next week, we'll do the Art of, and it's going to be about fuel.
Yes.
So that'll be really fun.
We're going to be doing a tech talk, right? I mean, in the sense that we really try to, you know, kind of mix things up from special, you know, again, special interest, like kind of personal, social, emotional things to, you know, to color or decorating to history. I really want to, I get really giddy on like, I was going to total Nick on lubricants, on oil and fuel.
This is why you got to sign up for Patreon, because that
Yes.
episode is going to be insane.
So we're going to be talking about fuel specifically and the kind of the chemical makeup and why you would choose something over another. Now, somebody asked us about LPG or, you know, specifically propane as a fuel source. And while we're not exactly going to be breaking that down from an off-road standpoint, there will probably be touches of that.
Yeah.
We'll be definitely talking about, you know, gasoline and kerosene and propane and diesel fuel, maybe a little bit of EV, lithium, you know, NiCad, whatever, right?
Well,
Fuel.
yeah. So there's a kind of a peek of what kind of episodes you can expect coming up quickly. And we're going to keep the rotation up of going from tech to more lighthearted or fun, some off-road stories and adventures, of course. But that's kind of what we're going to be doing for 25 for the podcast. If there's any specific content you want to hear, please let us know so we can work that into the schedule. Additionally, as we have talked about, we want to get into the content of Jeep. So what is Jeep doing for 2025?
Hopefully staying alive.
Well,
that out of the way.
That is some-
we know that Carlos Tavares, he left as a CEO and is now into auditioning for Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yes.
lead musician.
It's such a good musician.
I don't know
name.
what he's actually doing, but he is no longer with Jeep, Stellantis.
The
And
golden child is no longer there. Go for it.
so the next step for Jeep is in 2025, they're going to find a new CEO. That is their goal for the first half of 2025 is focused on finding a new CEO.
Yeah, and obviously I've seen tons of advertisements on Ram trucks and Jeeps trying to excite the base that they kind of turned off back into the dealerships.
I think the biggest thing going into 2025 that Stellantis is doing that I truly appreciate is that they rebranded the Wagoneer to Jeep Wagoneer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that was strategically a smart move on their part.
Yes.
The fact that they tried to come out with a Wagoneer brand without Jeep on it
Silly.
did not make sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I understand that it worked for Ram, but they Ram,
But did it?
You know,
Yeah.
but it's yes, it did. It did. It actually worked. We didn't like it when it happened, but it worked
I'm not here
because
for
they
it.
never stopped producing it.
which is true.
That's fair, but
Which is true.
Wagoneer went how many years without a production of it, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna bring it back as its own brand." No,
Oh,
that's
you're
not
saying you're jumping around at the namesake piece there.
correct.
I see. I think the challenge I have is I'm a Dodge guy. I'm a Mopar guy. I'm not a Ram guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when it comes to my
and,
trucks,
and that's fair.
and that's the pieces to say. And I'm a person who loves change. I love change and growth. You want to call your sports team a new name? I'm here for it. I don't care, right? But when it comes to my truck, and you take the Dodge brothers and what they brought to the table, and now you want to just take the line and call them Rams, it's like, nah, like that's why, right?
you're
Which is your
taking the heritage out of it.
you're taking the heritage out of
Correct.
it, and
And-
you know.
And I know, like I said, for Wagoneer specifically, I was really upset that they took that Jeep name away and now they're bringing it back. Dodge agreed. I was upset when they did it,
Right.
but
And
it works currently in this market.
it works because what you're saying is they never stopped producing the truck. Whereas the Wagoneer, other than the Grand Wagoneer of the early 90s, the Wagoneer as a standalone with the late 70s when
Yeah.
it was last produced.
Yeah.
Right. And so that name has association with a very finite population of people.
Yep.
And quite frankly, I was trying to convince my wife that she needed a Wagoneer recently. And the only thing she could conjure up was the poop brown 70s panel wagons.
Yes.
And I was like, no, like you would love a new Wagoneer.
Yeah.
The new Wagoneers are pretty awesome.
And they have just plummeted in price by what they were released as. Now, when we talk about the brand as a whole staying afloat, we are seeing prices decrease by $7,000, $10,000, $15,000
Yes.
straight off the top, because quite frankly, the approach from a top-down perspective from Stellantis to the consumer was out of line with where the consumer base wants to land.
Well, not only that, they were giving lots of rebates, lots of excitements, and then they weren't helping their dealerships or assisting their dealerships to actually implement those savings. So I for one, yes, I'm still mad, but there's other people I've heard as well thought, oh, I'm going to go get a vehicle and I'm going to use this rebate to justify it in my expenditure right now. And then suddenly, oh no, you don't actually get to
Qualify.
use that.
Right.
So
It was a little bit of a bait and switch.
yes. And there's some loss of buyer confidence with that then.
There's a ton of loss of buyer confidence in the Stellantis line as a whole. I think that is a great, fair sentiment. And not even just buyer consumer confidence, but then the dealerships were not receiving the support that they should have been. They had tremendous inventory mismanagement.
Yep.
Some dealerships were saturated with inventory while
Yep.
others were,
Barely
just
get
barren.
any.
Well, there's that, and then there's all the recalls and how many vehicles just sat on lots because the parts didn't exist.
Well, and absolutely and the problem is you could go to one dealership and they would tell you, and I understand dealerships as a whole oftentimes have this, but the problem intensified through the 21 to 24. But you would go to one dealership and one dealership would say, oh, your Jeep is sidelined for 3 months because the part doesn't exist. You would go to another dealership an hour away and it would be in and out in a week.
Yeah.
You would get, and these people, the funny thing about the internet is we all jump online and they go, hey, this is what my dealership told me. And then, 30
next
other
town
people,
over,
next town over, like, I don't understand why, because my dealership has 6 of those sitting on the shelf.
Yes.
And that created a disproportionate
Well,
consumer experience.
There was that, and
post purchase.
and then there was those dealers that had all that inventory that were refusing to sell it to other dealers.
Yes.
Yes.
Or at dealer pricing that was just tremendously inflated.
Yeah.
I saw. Oh my gosh! I wish I could. I wish I could have. I wish I would have actually screenshotted it because the wording was hysterical, and it was in Florida. I kind of almost guarantee it.
Florida
And it was-
man.
Florida man. It was like dealer incentive pricing, right? And it broke down the pricing, and it was something, so there was MSRP, and then there was, your added options, and then there was like dealer location incentive pricing, and it literally added $7,500 to the price tag.
Yep.
I was like, and it was a Jeep or it was a Wagoneer
And
or
I've
something
heard
I was
that
looking at
before.
recently, and I was like, that is some malarkey. I can call Carvana, or I can pull up Carvana on my device right now,
Yep.
and they will ship me any vehicle I want in the country.
Yep.
At a particular price point. And this dealership in Florida or wherever, tacked on $7,500 because it's sitting on their lot.
Because it's a resort fee
It was
Yeah, it was a
literally-
resort fee.
for a car dealership.
There was literally talk on I was shopping for my truck that people were literally would be on a border or be a couple hours from a border of a state, would purposely go purchase a vehicle out of state because they could save thousands of dollars. Why?
And that is a problem. I mean, of course, the dealer association wrote an open letter to Mr. Tavares and stated these as their complaints, right? As their
Grievances.
grievances. They aired their grievances 3-4 months ago, and saying like this is creating confusion amongst our base.
So they had Festivus.
They did. They met at the Festivus poll. And so I think that in 2025, Jeep and the mothership must address these issues. And they're putting a bunch of things in place to do so, but they must address it. And as we mentioned, we see prices, MSRP specifically, falling by $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. We're entering the market at a lower entry price point.
Yep.
That has factually been established. Now, one of the things that I was excited about as just a purveyor of oddities was the new Jeep Recon. I actually may have mentioned it on 3, 4, 5 episodes ago. I don't exactly recall. It appears that the Recon, which is slated to be a complete EV vehicle, loosely, understand this is loose, and you can just totally be like, I heard this guy from SFJ say this, but loosely, it's like an oversized XJ Cherokee. Okay. But you're supposed to be able to take the doors off like a Wrangler. But I don't think it's supposed to have a convertible top. I think it's supposed to be almost like a One Touch-esque subframe on the top. And it's supposed to be all EV, and it's supposed to be a smaller off-road oriented vehicle. And they pushed that back, what we were reading recently. Looks like we may not see those until a 26 model, but that means that it should come out in 25. Now, I think it's hard for them to launch a new vehicle when sales overall are at a
down.
14% loss on, overall from Stellantis specifically.
Yeah.
Now, the auto industry as a whole, as we shift and say, what does the auto industry look like in 2025? We're actually looking down the pipe. And so Cox Automotive, all the big talking heads, right? The JD Power and Associates, the, Car and Driver magazine, all of the talking heads of the industry are saying that we're actually going to be looking at, quote unquote, the most normal consumer market since 2021 or 2020.
Yep. Prices
And-
are dropping. Interest rates are dropping. You're getting back to some form of normalcy.
Our supply chain is again finally
Catching up.
catching up or kind of reassembling after its massive fracture over the last few years and whatnot. That used car prices will continue to be high. So if you've got a vehicle that is has a high kind of a resale value, it may actually be to your advantage to leverage the equity in that vehicle right here and now and let that vehicle go and purchase a new vehicle, which is actually going to be the intrinsic value of it is going to be lower than it was the same time last year.
Yep.
So it's an interesting situation where we actually have equity in our used vehicles versus the depreciated cost of the new market.
Yep.
This is a piece that sometimes is lost on people when I have a conversation with the kind of the average auto person. The best time to buy a vehicle is kind of right now and for the next 6 to 8 weeks. There's a couple advantages specifically within the kind of the tax structure of dealerships want to get rid of inventory for year end. And then at the beginning of the year, the incentive to get rid of inventory for tax purposes is a little, it's a little out the window, but now they're wanting desperately to get rid of inventory to quote unquote make room. And that's on the books and on the lot for new, the exciting new inventory that will come in the spring.
Yep.
Plus, they have less days to sell things because they're closed for holidays and time off and that kind of stuff. So they actually have less sellable days on the books for those months as well. So it adds a couple of challenges for those people to try to get those numbers that they want to have at the end of the thing.
Absolutely. And so it's an interesting thing as we look at, used car values. Now, we're talking millions and millions and millions, $20+ million in used car sales in 2025. It's going to be one of the kind of a record-setting year in the last 5 years or so. That humans are buying and selling cars like crazy right now.
Yep.
Maybe not so much new vehicles, but that is, again, I'm going to make the argument, very much a top-down issue because these auto manufacturers kept inflating the prices. They had supply chain logistics, and they created consumer confusion through the service of those vehicles.
Yep.
And so we have this pocket of a whole bunch of new vehicles that are kind of going down in price. And of course, if you have a dealership that has a vehicle within the last 2-3 years, they're going to want to resell that vehicle affordably as well because they're going to try and take advantage of these cheaper new vehicles.
Yep.
Right? So it's this really interesting situation. As an auto industry as a whole. Again, as I've mentioned before, EV sales are intended to increase by a number of these, automotive professional talking heads by about 21%. So despite the fact that Stellantis did not do so hot as far as when they killed their V8s and they, took away some of the muscle car stuff that is part of the Mopar heritage, EV tech as a whole continues to mount a stronghold on the American consumer market. And as much as 21% increase for EVs in 2025 is the kind of the standard number that I'm seeing.
That's what it was in 24.
Okay. So they're saying it's another 21 plus then is what I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting. So they were seeing this plus some is what then that number is saying.
That would be my assumption.
Sure.
Yeah.
That we're not seeing it dip by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I think it's going to continue to grow. And unless they actually legitimize the hydrogen engine, I think that the EV is where it's going to be for a while.
It's going to be for a while, at least. I think
Yeah.
we've already started the culture shift
Correct.
significantly. So much tech, so much money, so much redevelopment, plant production has been shifted this direction. And in fact, the Recon that I was talking about, this largely EV, is going to be a specific plant that is currently doing Wagoneers. And as they rebranded the Wagoneer line and they kind of push that through, they're looking to introduce. So the plant has already been retrofitted, to my knowledge.
Well,
They're just focusing on rebranding and kind of get back to the basics, if you will.
not only that, but as we see EV progressing, did you happen to see what else Jeep is doing with engines?
What else? Turbos, twin turbos. I don't
The
know.
Hemi's gone.
Yes.
Hemi is gone for 25.
Yes.
In place of it is the Hurricane,
Yes.
which is your twin turbo.
Yep. Yeah, which will be interesting. One of the challenges that I see as I love the romance of the brand and kind of the history. We kept it simple for a long time. And kind of publicly, I'll share that oftentimes we kind of make fun of, jokingly in the most honorable way possible, Henry Ford and his incessant retooling, constantly changing little pieces on his production vehicles year after year. Jeep largely would do a run and it would go, 5 years, and it would be pretty similar for 5 years. And they might do a mid-production shift, but then you'd have these runs of engines that would go a decade, 15 years, 20 years, where the base platform. So when you kind of wrapped your head around a straight six 4-liter engine, you could reasonably work on a vehicle 1987 through 2006, right?
Yeah.
And you had a gist of an idea, and you knew kind of what that engine brought to the table. Jeep, since arguably 2018, is just throwing darts at the wall as far as power plants are concerned.
Yeah, there's a lot.
That's Henry Ford. Hey, we're just seeing what sticks.
And it's a double-edged sword because we had the straight six from 63 to 2006 was basically the same architecture and the same family of motor. Well, that was my grandpa drove that and it was good, so I'm going to. So you're not innovative, but you're trustworthy.
I love it, and I'm gonna interrupt you. Don't forget where you're going, but I'm gonna go back to the 134, the 4-cylinder that I love was arguably
from the 20s.
From the 20s,
yeah.
And then I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've got a similar but different 4-cylinder in a TJ, and you kind of get this. Well, I had this 4-cylinder in my CJ2A or my grandpa's on the farm, and I know that's a little tractor engine. They're completely different engines.
Yes,
but there's something about it that feels trustworthy.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, keep going. What were you saying?
So we then killed that off, and we just kind of ignored it and went right into the V6. And I think there is a demographic that hasn't been happy since. And they don't give, and they've refined the V6. They've made it better. Just this morning I was test driving a Jeep and I was like, kind of culture shock because I'm used to my 3.6 in the Glad and the 8-speed transmission and the 410 gears. And you just boot it in the button, it goes and it does what it's supposed to do. Compared that to the first V6, man.
Yeah, you were riding a 3.8.
Yeah, I was like, man, why am I pushing on the gas so much? Why doesn't it seem like it's going? Well, it's because I'm just used to that nice first gear in the Glad. But there is a demographic that's still mad about that first V6 and is still hesitant to give the Jeep that I'm currently driving a chance because of that culture shift. That dependability feels gone. And you go online, you'll see people talking about problems this and problems that, and my take for that is always like everybody's got problems. It's not just Jeep. You just feel the grass that your feet are under versus the grass that's on the other side of the fence. You don't realize they have grubs too.
Yes.
But there's a lot of truth in that. Like the whole industry has had problems and sufferings. It's not just our brand.
And the last piece I will say on the engine situation, because obviously the introduction of the Hurricane, is what kind of inspired this talking point. It's that I love change. I'm here to accept it. I also love the idea of forced air induction. Obviously, we've been playing with it as the hot rod industry is concerned forever. And so single turbos, double turbos, superchargers, all of it makes sense to me. I get that. In the Jeep market ourselves, we like low-end torque. That's one of the things we struggle with. That's why the e-torque was introduced. But of course, now we enter the e-torque. And what does that mean? And how does that work with my vehicle? And, those types of things. And so I guess, ultimately, I'm here to accept the changes as far as the 2.0 turbos and the 3.0 diesels and these kind of different engine platforms that we're having, but there are these constant variations, whether it's e-torque, e-assist, you know, an actual 4xe, you know, whether it's a 3.6 or the 2.0, you know what I mean? There's just so many variants produced in the last 5-7 years in the newest platforms.
And speaking of which, one thing we were, you know, kind of rumor mill or talking about is they were going to kill off the automatic behind the 3.6, and they have since recanted.
Yes.
And basically was like, ooh, we were kind of screwing up. Our hand was half in the cookie jar. You saw us, and now we're going to apologize.
I think it's funny is because all the articles read the same, and they were like, Jeep's brought it back. And I was like, I just feel like it never went away.
Yeah,
like
it didn't.
I mean, maybe at the very highest level of manufacturing, it went away for a brief moment. But us peasants down here on the consumer level, it didn't change.
Can we talk about the new colors?
They
And how
are fascinating.
I don't think they changed.
Yeah.
So there's Fathom Blue is
Yep.
new for 2025.
Yep.
Which is just your dark blue.
Just a dark blue.
And then you have 41.
I think that's what I was going to say is fascinating. Is 41 it feels like they tried to take like a Easter Jeep Safari inspired approach.
100%.
You know, they know that the Jeep industry loves their kind of heritage to the military.
Yeah,
right.
the OD.
The OD, the OG-OD.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to call 41.
And that's what it is. It's an olive drab. It is very much that almost flatter look to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm curious to see how it's going to look in person.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it actually going to have a flat look to it, or did they put metallic in it?
Yeah. And who knows when it comes down the line. I mean, really, those are the only two colors. Is that fair? Is that what we're seeing?
From what is currently released from Jeep, those are the two colors for 2025.
And, you know, I think that they've done this before because I think, don't quote me, they release a couple things at EJS.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have some things up their sleeves, and they release some stuff at EJS.
Yeah.
And so,
But I
you
think
know,
we can see coming down the pike, there's going to be some special packages, some special sticker things, because Jeep has done that forever. That's something that Jeep's always been kind of downtrodden or dealing with less money than the other manufacturers. So they have to figure out how we're going to make things new and exciting and get people in there. So if it worked for your CJ7 or your CJ5, they're sort of still doing the same model, which I kind of think is a good thing.
somewhere there is a department trying to do that in Jeep. Yes, I'm with you. I think as a whole, they're always kind of answering to the mothership, you know, and getting beat back into submission.
I think they're kind of probably getting a little louder though now that the as a whole mothership is doing so badly. So maybe they're like,
probably true.
hey, maybe we need to actually listen to those old guys over in the corner that are grumbling and drinking their coffee.
Kind of speaking of old guys here.
as a great transition.
The clock's starting to wind down on us. I want to get into our personal 2025 goals, and I want to start with Old Man Brown over there. With what are you looking ahead to in
Personal,
2025?
professional goals in 2025.
So, personal goals, the skill I want to try to learn is how to paint that is not a puff can. Don't know how far I'll get in that, but I am interested on how to learn the whole chemistry of how you add this and then do that and how this temperature and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to dip my toes in the sand of that a little bit and see on my own stuff if I can figure out how to do that a little bit. Because it would really behoove me if I could figure that out, because I have lots of vehicles that need paint.
Sure.
Another goal for mine is obviously everybody knows about the Snowmageddon and the building things, but and I'll get to that later. But one of the things that was involved in that was my wife's dad's F-150, and I want to I've challenged myself to see if I can fix the cab from the unfortunate smushing it had, because I was not ready for F-150 part prices. And so I'm like, maybe I'll just figure it out. And, I actually took inspiration. I had a fender here on a customer CJ5, and he kind of just said, hey, if you make it worse, throw it away, put a new fender on it. If you make it better, I'm here for it. And I thought, if I could fix that fender, can I fix the roof? So As a personal challenge, I'm going to see what I can do. Worst case, I'm buying a cab anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's kind of where I'm looking at it. Instead of getting excited, I kind of had to check. Old Scott would go and panic buy parts and try to figure it out in his head. I was down that path. I was looking for parts. I was like, you know what? I need to step on the brakes and I need to see what happens first. I got tools. I got ability. Let's see what happens. So
Nice.
once weather breaks, I'm going to get real serious about that. Get the cab off, get on a cart and see about starting cutting some steel and making things work. So
Nice.
those two personal ability challenges into 2025. I would love to add a couple more tools to my arsenal as well, but we'll see how things play out. So
Mm-hmm.
Metal Shop will continue to be Metal Shop.
Yes. Yes.
So
Nice. Jeffrey, me or you?
You go ahead. We'll just work right around
That's
the
fine.
room.
Yeah, that seems fair. So, folks who follow me on my, my personal social or know me close enough may or may not be aware I'm on a personal health kick. A lot of people have kind of, been conscientious of that. And I am really enjoying kind of reacclimating that to my life. And so I will kind of continue that. I'm probably on about an 8 to 10 month tear into that, and really feeling very good about it. Gives me enough energy to allow me to kind of really push the envelope here professionally when you are just of more clear mind, health and body in general. So that's going to be a continued big focus for me in the new year. Now, if you've been following along, you know that Chuck Norris is in the process of transitioning to new, sort of within the family. Obviously very much going to go live with a new owner at this point, which has then left me with Ruby.
mhm.
And this little crusty JKUR that I am playing with right now has had just a phenomenal response from people, which I just think is so fascinating because to me, it is just as we used to joke that XJs are for the poors. This is about as cheap and as poor of a JK as you can get. And I am doing mods that within reason really are this finite balancing act between like really high quality performance expectations and absolutely like good old school repurposing. And so if you watch the last YouTube video, you know that I fit up a JL bumper, full width plastic JL bumper. And I got to be honest with you, I'm absolutely in love with the look. Now, the Jeep is not it's not lifted, it's not doing anything too crazy, and I'm okay with that right at this exact moment. And so so I did something that we used to do, and
Yep.
when I said, hey, you know what, I think that this fits, I hear rumor that it fits, I'd like to know what this looks and feels like. And so
Yeah.
I recently did that. I look forward to doing some more of that, some more experimenting, and kind of pushing the envelope on some of this on my own stuff, in a way that both kind of adds to our repertoire,
Mm-hmm.
but also then allows me to consult appropriately with our customers to say, yeah, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. Yeah, I did this mod myself. I didn't. I've always been really conscientious of like what I call armchair quarterbacks. And you and I had this conversation, Scott, years ago about Dana 30s, right?
Yep.
And I vividly remember it. And we were kind of talking about the robustness of a Dana 30.
Yep.
And I asked you, I was like, well, have you ever broke one? And you're like, well, I've seen some.
Yeah.
And I had seen
Axle
some.
shafts here and there.
Yeah, but I never really toasted a Dana 30.
Yeah.
And so just because there is somebody out there who's inappropriately abusing their Jeep and just grenades their Dana 30 does not immediately make them all garbage.
Yes.
And so I like, as well we all do here, is oftentimes we experiment on ourselves. The winch plate on your Jeep and the XK Command. And
Yeah.
there's a number of things that we go, hey, you know what? I think I'd like to try this on myself first.
Mm-hmm.
And recognize whether or not that is a viable modification or not. So I'm enjoying doing that myself with this JKUR. I too have added a couple tools to my toolbox. I've spent more time on the service floor this past year. I actually really enjoyed that. Jeffrey took over a lot of the heavy lifting on the front end of the business, and we'll kind of continue that process. But infrastructure-wise here at the business, I am committed to our public bathroom or semi-public bathroom.
Scott's office.
I'm looking forward to my office.
Yeah.
Actually relocating our space so that we can move the Savage over and give him more dedicated space, so that you and him are not playing bosom buddies. While it's not bad, I would like to, as we continue to grow, give people appropriate space to do, the best they can possibly do. There are a couple things there that I'm going to be working hard towards in the new year myself.
And then for me, it's just working towards growing the nonprofit in Erie and building that amazing team. And literally some of the things that our team wants to accomplish in 25 is something that 2 years ago when the idea started, I would have said, yeah, right, we're not doing that by 25. So it's really fun just building on that and helping that grow and develop, including planning for a appreciation event. It's going to be a private event with about 100 people invited to that. And then there'll be the main event Labor Day weekend of 2025, which is a 2-day festival.
Nice.
In downtown Erie. And that is something that I never would have guessed that I'd be at the head
That level
of a event of that size and that caliber.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's very cool.
lots to plan there.
And I will add one final thing for 2025 specifically to look forward to that I want to put on everybody's radar. We're looking to blow the 4th of July parade out of the water.
Oh yeah.
And we are pushing for just an absolutely a great experience. Our parades have continued to grow. Now, first of all, we have not, been back. The Christmas parade, which had been postponed, been canceled and then rescheduled. We did have that right before the Christmas break that we took. And we had a wonderful experience.
We had 20 to 25 Jeeps for that.
And we thank folks who came out. We actually had a ton of people come from out of town, travel in. We had a very good time. It was, as you can expect, it was a little cumbersome because of the rescheduled date. It was so close to the holidays. There's challenges in all things we do in life. But as always, we made the absolute best of it. The 2025 4th of July parade has the potential to be absolutely spectacular. And as of right now, we're in works with the city and the local port authority that as we finalize the parade, we're actually going to continue it down onto the beach where we will have special access to actually drive out onto the sand out near the water. So where we have traditionally gone into the local township park for kind of a fun aerial picture or lineup picture, will actually be convoying down out onto the sand, kind of out, close to the waterfront itself, and adding that to the experience. So it has the potential to be a very, very cool, time. And so I want people to put that on their schedule and prioritize joining us early July.
It would be pretty cool to get the biggest year span of Jeeps we could get. So this is my call to order for all the old people, restoration guys. Let's get some vintage Jeeps in this parade.
Right.
Let's get some
That'd be fun.
CJs, get some flat fenders. That would be fun. Kind of go back to the olden days. So we could have as much Jeep exposure as we could.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So I think that really covers us. We're looking forward to 2025. We accomplished a ton in 2024. I mean, absolutely pushed the limits. And that is so wholly because of you, our listeners, because of our viewers, because of our customers, our supporters, our Patreons, and we thank you so much for that. We're looking forward to the new year because you give us the inspiration and the means to go forward and continue to expose more and more people to the Jeep life and all the good that it offers.
So I want to interrupt. I know Jeff wanted to, but I'm going to do it.
No, I was saving that for after.
Oh, you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that.
We're saving that for after.
All right, Jeep family. Until next time in the new year, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
aerial piece there.
Yeah, that was from Davey. He put that together for
Oh,
us.
that's good. That's a nice little splash screen.
So Beth, right at the end there, had said we should spell SFJ with the Jeeps on the sandbar.
So
And I saw that, and at first I was like, I should interrupt. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to leave it because we could talk about that afterwards.
So I'm
That's really fun.
excited. She just nominated herself
To organize that.
to organize the spelling out.
And you know the best part? We have a Savage with a drone.
Yeah.
So we can have really nice footage of that as
'Cause
well.
I had a flashback. It was almost a trigger of us trying to do this back in the day, and it was an absolute crap show.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm so glad that Beth nominated herself to
to do
yeah,
this.
to
It's
do
great.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
that would be perfect.
anyways, as far as weekend stuff or weekend, and we had a whole week off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a little more to the T's right on the 4th of July because I want to make sure that we have sufficient talking about. My intention is not to start here at our headquarters. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but my intention is actually to start where the parade lineup will be, and there was a parade years ago that was well supported outside of Cleveland that spelled Jeep. When you showed up, you got positioned into spelling out Jeep.
Yes.
And Put in Bay Invasion does a beautiful job doing it as well. And so I think it would almost be kind of sick to as people showed up to the location where I'm intending to stage us, we spell Jeep there. And then we will go down to the sandbar and spell SFJ. That would be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
Okay.
So, anyways, as far as the week off, Scott, I know you had an adventure. So any major updates? Let's go through. You know, we're short on time, so we'll try to keep it short.
Well, so normal Greg model is, he hears me whine about something long enough. You hear, well, I'll come look at it. So he came over and looked at the building disaster and vehicles still having a roof set on them and everything. And he got this look in his eye. He's like, well, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. And then it's just going to work. And I was like, you know what? I am at a loss. I don't have a plan. I've tried to have a plan. I've tried many things. Nothing has worked. So we're just going to follow Greg's thing. So then I messaged Jeff and I was like, hey, would you like to do hillbilly stuff with us?
I
And
love doing hillbilly
He's
stuff.
always on board for that.
Yes.
So
I think it was Christmas Eve. I think that you sent that, and I was just like, sounds like a great plan to do sketchy stuff the day after Christmas.
and then I had in my back pocket, I was like, if we get really up the creek, I can call Neil in the last minute. I'm gonna let him ride for now as my back pocket piece. So Greg shows up early, got his tote full of tools.
I just love that there was no plan of time. I'm like, well, what time are we expecting to do
Greg,
this? I don't know what time.
well,
he's gonna
Greg was
show up.
calling the shots and he didn't give me a time, and I was like, I don't want to. I
was
don't want to overstep and tell him a time, and then him get grumpy about something. You know.
Well, and I was like, I'll be there between 12 and 1. Then, since you don't have a time, you said afternoon sometime. I was like, I'll be there between 12 and 1. And then I promptly sat down and started doing Legos with Xander. Totally lost track of time. He texts me, we're here working. I'm like, crap, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Well, because of course Greg shows up early, has all the tools, has all the batteries, has all the Milwaukee. You know, and he just brings his youngest with him, and they're just blowing screws out of panels and dropping things off, and you know. He's got ladders in inappropriate places, and at one point he was up on the roof of the crush building, blowing out more screws. He was on the roof of the camper.
He was literally sliding down the roof trying to unscrew panels, and because
he was
such
in his
a
glory.
steep slope,
He was in his glory.
Oh, he was having a blast.
I'm sure.
At some point, we had to
muttering under his breath
the whole
and-
time.
Well, and at one point there was the concept Scott suggested that we just cut some holes and let the snow fall through because there's still so much snow on this roof. And Greg got up there and was like, no. And Scott's like, well, maybe we just shovel it off while you're up there. And he's like, no. Once we actually got it down, you saw how much snow
there
was in.
was a ton of snow.
You weren't getting
it
the
was
snow.
crazy.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, he rode the propane tank of the camper as we pulled it out. You know, it was all kinds of hillbilly bad stuff. Amy's
It disappoints me when you guys didn't invite Savage to come out and video in the process.
don't worry. It's well documented. This is a picture that will be put up on Patreon.
Oh, I love it.
There is absolutely a Jeep on either end with
it was
tow
all
rope
Jeep.
or chain attached and
Yes.
winch,
An
pulling both sides of the building apart to
Yes.
keep tension on it as we remove pieces.
Jeff may or may not have ripped a beam completely out of the building
with the winch.
with the winch,
Oh my gosh.
like pulling the wishbone out of a turkey. We may or may not have ran a Jeep completely out of gas. It was kind of acting a fool, and I was like, is the fuel pump going out? And then, sometimes you're just too close to the problem. We're having Amy, use Snowflake to move things, and she goes to do something, and it just shuts off, and she's like, "Oh, I ran out of gas." And I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense."
It was really fun because we got to use the infamous, was it TikTok or Reels line of, I know what the problem is. Ain't got no gas.
And we did have one casualty. Sadly, we're gonna have to have a burial later. My OG purple strap did end its life.
And we actually pulled out the purple strap that he gifted to us last year for Christmas.
Right.
Jeff
right.
had never used
I've
it.
never used it.
Oh,
It now looks like it is about to snap as well.
I actually forgot. I need to go buy a new one now.
Right.
Yeah.
So the best $7 strap you can have.
Yeah. It was a good time. We got the building down, and
Yeah.
they were just doing minor tear down at that point when I finally left. So I don't know
That's
how far you got after
fantastic.
that.
We made a pile and we've worked on it a little bit here and there, but honestly, the good weather, we went and played hooky and spent some time with friends and that kind of stuff. So now I'm gonna pay for it this week. The weather does not look very copacetic.
yep. Get it.
But
At least everything's out of the building now, and
Yes.
it's down on the ground.
and I'm not going to we're short on time, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but there is more stuff to talk about new buildings and added toys and tools to help
Well,
with the
I
building.
mean, go ahead and share your toy acquisition.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is fun.
It's for you. You know what I mean? It's for you. You know.
So back in the day, I have to do this part first, though.
Yes.
Because we were young and, first home buyers, and what the first thing you need is a lawnmower. And he had an old Cub Cadet that he was like beating with a hammer to talk it into. I had an
Every time.
old Craftsman that I was doing the same thing. It didn't have a reverse, and I'd have to drag it backwards and all
Yep.
kinds of bad stuff.
Yep.
And so we finally were like, we're going to go buy new tractors.
Yes.
I did all the research. And
Spend tons of time on the phone talking about
way
our-
too
our-
much time.
Our acquisitions are.
And he went and bought first. And in true Neil fashion, he got the biggest deck and the biggest rear tires.
And the
I was-
biggest engine I could buy in
Yes.
the frame that I could
And
afford.
I went and tried to buy the biggest John Deere I could. And they looked at my credit and said, no, you can have the littler one.
Little guy.
And
And it's
I
important
was,
to know I bought a black and red tractor at that. I bought a Craftsman
Yeah.
for our listening audience, which was back when there was actually still Sears stores. And
Yes.
I went into the Sears store and I actually special ordered my Craftsman
and
lawnmower.
we used to talk about deck thickness and
Oh, yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so that's completely the stuff we nerd out about on the podcast for you.
Yes.
We're real.
Yes.
We do this about lawnmowers as well. So we did this.
Yes.
Totes.
So then he goes and he's doing his small house project, and a tractor is really useful for that crap.
Very useful.
So he goes and he again does all the research
Yes.
and ends up buying his Mahindra,
Yes.
which is red.
Yep.
And I want to like red tractors. I do. I do. But and I even looked at orange tractors, and I can't help it. I'm green is where I love
You
it.
bleed
So
green. That's okay.
so I ended up with a used. That's where I feel like I went kind of like, okay, I had to go with the smaller tractor before. Now I went with a used tractor because holy crap, they're expensive.
Yes.
And I wasn't getting a backhoe because, again, $6,000 for a backhoe, even used, was like, holy crap.
Right.
But I got 2017 late production 1025R for racing.
Racing.
John Deere with a loader and a 60-inch belly mower, so I can mow the field with it, and I can inappropriately pick up things with it, which immediately my wife put me in the bucket and we put a tarp over the camper.
I saw that OSHA approved picture.
So it
I
was
loved it.
just so much easier.
I loved it.
So and I was like, I really want a backhoe. We like to be self sufficient. All of us do. But I was like, you know what? For the few things I need a backhoe for, I'm just going to lean on Neil for that.
Yes. Yes.
So it'll be
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
But I love the fact that we have renewed our tractor
Yes.
thing with our red and green tractors
Yet again.
Yet again.
Yes.
Wonderful. And Jeffrey, was there anything? I don't have a ton of updates, and people who follow me on social, they can always, see what's going on in my life.
Honestly,
as
it's the same. The big update for me was honestly helping Scott. Otherwise, it was spending time with family for Christmas and enjoying that time. The kids absolutely got spoiled for Christmas.
Wonderful.
Holy cow. Not even by us. Like, we were very, like, you each got a gift from us. That was it.
Mhm.
And then we went to
All the
Christmas
family
and
stuff.
family stuff, and it just one thing after another. I think the coolest thing that in general as a family gift that we got would have been her parents bought us the Max membership pass for Cleveland Science Center.
Oh,
Ooh.
cool.
So we'll get to take the kids to that a bunch this year, and I'm looking forward to that.
That is
I
really
know
cool.
I enjoyed it as a kid, and I can't wait to share
Yes.
that experience
It
with
is a
them.
great place.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we have not taken them there. We've taken them to zoos all over, aquarium, stuff like that, but we haven't gone to the science center, so that'll be really fun.
That is awesome. Yeah, and I suppose.
Plus the IMAX theater in there
Yes.
too,
Yep.
which we have the unlimited passes for.
Oh,
that
that's
now.
excellent.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be able to see all the new IMAX releases and everything. That can get pricey, so that's excellent.
Yeah.
For us, we had a wonderful time with family and friends. We really tried to focus in and attempt to. While I love and appreciate everything that the business stands for, really tried to focus in on the family. One of the big challenges, which we'll start to unpack or reveal, is that Jeeps, they giveth and they taketh, but my wife's Jeep is actually in need of an engine.
Yep.
So
That's big.
Piper, the name of my wife's Jeep. It was right before the parade, a couple hours before the parade. I had the whole top end of the engine off, and we had really kind of gotten to the
We're doing
kinda
triage.
kind of understanding succinctly that we either have a blown head or a blown head gasket.
Yes.
Um,
And we've been in there before, and we kind of know, regardless, that means the same thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's on a JK. We went into it, and
Yeah.
it's by the time you get into timing chain and a bunch of stuff that has to come apart just to do a head or head gasket, you're actually further ahead with a new engine.
Yes.
And so we've kind of renewed conversations about, do we get a new vehicle? Do we put an engine in there?
Yes.
So time's going to kind of tell what we do. It's challenging because oftentimes I'm the one kind of giving I'm the bearer of bad news to our customers and being like, oh, I'm sorry, this thing. Well, here I'm the recipient of it, you know? So that challenged us through the holidays. We're jumping around vehicles. The good news is we have a couple different vehicles to choose from, and we have a very supportive family. So, also my wife, she's a teacher. She would work. So we, she's not going a whole lot of places. So, right now we're driving the JKUR and the Mini Cooper and the limo and whatever.
Hey, why not?
Why not?
Have you taken the limo out since it started snowing?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've had the limo out once or twice. It actually handles really well in the snow. I think it's got to be because of the weight.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I love the limo, so I don't want it to rust any more than it already has.
Yeah,
I told her she
agree.
could just drive the limo for the next year or so. She did not. I think that
I
was.
Wasn't excited.
She wasn't excited. She wasn't as excited as I was.
Now
So-
get her a Wagoneer. Honestly, out of curiosity from when we had talked about the prices dropping and stuff, I pulled it up to see what they're going for currently. You can get one on Marketplace for under $50,000
I know.
with low mileage.
I know.
I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, they've absolutely fallen in price. Now, that doesn't make me feel great for resale value, but we all know that nothing leaves Neil Simpson's hands alive.
I was
No.
going to say, it's not like it's going to.
It's not going
matter.
to. We're gonna
Resale value for you is not something
I
you should
don't
worry
care about resale value. Can I die in it is really
Yeah.
all I care about.